Beyond the Bell Media here with our special guest, 2011 NCAA champion and two-time All-America, Bubba Jenkins. How you doing, man?
What's up? What's up, fellas? I'm great, man. I'm doing good. Kurt Angle followed me this morning, so it's a good morning already.
Oh, that's awesome. Man, that is awesome. That's a real American hero right there.
It's a good start to a good day.
Absolutely, man. Especially coming from that wrestling background, I know that you probably appreciated that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Kitty Monday fan, but that suplex influenced me along the ways that Kurt's got. So
Oh
I can
yeah.
definitely take away from that as my childhood.
So are you a WWE fan then?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, me being a wrestler, I have to be a WWE fan because
Yeah.
I can honestly say when I first got on the mat, that's what I thought I was signing up for.
Right.
That's what I thought I was coming off the top rope,
Yeah, you think
and
you're doing swanton bombs, everything, flying off ropes.
all that, all that, and Sting back in the day was my favorite guy. I had an iguana named
Mine too,
Sting.
man.
Sting was the man, his mysteriousness, the hair, all that. That was my guy. So, and then obviously Stone Cold, Steve Austin, and the rest. But after I started really wrestling, I got out of the liking of WWE in a sense, just because everyone always got the confusion of, oh, you do that stuff, and it was like, nah,
Yeah.
I'm really out here repping every day, 50 drills a day, drillers make killers type stuff. So
Right. And plus it's changed, a lot since the Attitude Era and everything. It's not the same since Vince ran the show.
100%, 100%. If you can smell what your candy ass, it has not been the same.
That's right. That's right. Well, man, I'm gonna jump right into the whole wrestling aspect. I know I might bring up a touchy subject here at Penn State. I know Penn State, man, you had a illustrious career all the way to your senior year. Cale Sanderson comes along, becomes the head coach. Along comes David Taylor. You end up transferring to ASU. You guys fast forward, you guys end up going to the NCAA championship. You guys end up meeting.
Time out, time out. You repeating this story. You said a touchy subject. You repeating this story like you don't know the end to this story.
Oh, I do.
Like
I know the ending.
it doesn't go well for me or
Oh
something.
no, no.
You're like prefacing the audience to prepare for a letdown of some sort.
Basically, just because the whole Penn State issue, I know that I read something where Sanderson said that I guess you weren't the guy that he was, I guess, looking for. You didn't wrestle the way he expected you to. So you ended up going to ASU and being the underdog. You end up meeting
Yeah.
David Taylor, and you end up beating him with a cradle to win the
Their
national championship.
their cradle. Let's get it
Right.
right. It won't just a cradle. It was the one that they taught me a couple of months before.
So
so,
how does that
so
make
how
you feel? Like,
listen, so the fact that you said he felt that he didn't like, I was one of the top recruits coming in out of high school. So
right,
for him to say that when he he showed up and recruited me and things like that, so it was kind of different. Not only that, when I was there, I was beloved by all the people there, of course, other than him and his new bravado, what he was trying to bring in.
yeah,
I was the captain of the old regime. I was, the guy Phil Davis had moved on. He was a national champion, yada yada yada. Now it's my regime, and they're recruiting now the David Taylors of the world. And I didn't have any problem with that because I had been at Penn State being recruited at we were the number one recruiting class for three out of the 4 years that I was there. So it was nothing new to get the top talented guys to come in and everybody be on eggs, not eggshells, but just knowing that the new recruits are
right.
the truth. This Penn State recruiting. So but it made me feel validated, man. Like you said, that story is going to be told in history forever. You cannot
Absolutely,
erase
man.
that.
It's
You
one of the
cannot
greatest
erase.
comeback stories in college history when it comes to wrestling, in my opinion.
Man, I got, my mom wrote a book out. My mom wrote a book about me, and it's 12 rounds of certain stories that happened in my life, starting from, before I could remember. Obviously, she wrote about me being a miracle baby and not having a heartbeat and whatnot. And, it's going not viral. It's obviously went viral. I'm famous for pinning David Taylor, right?
Yep, yep.
But it has given its own dream. It has given its own legs to its own dream. Of course, I came to wrestle to be legendary, but that moment alone and those times alone made me iconic. Of course, the Super Duck and all the things that I did in college led to being, talked about. But to be in that position with me being at Penn State and everybody kind of jumping on that new David Taylor, Cale Sanderson bandwagon. It was like, the old Black Hope against the new Great White Hope. It was like kind of dressed as that. It was all black coaching staff in the corner for me, and
Yeah.
not the same. And that was in State College, where I mean, it was in Philly, where those fans used to root for me, and they were fanatic fans when I was in the blue and white, and those same fans were booing the hell out of me, heckling me all weekend during the week. It's a 5-day thing, 3 day
That's gotta
tournament.
fuel you though, too.
Say that again. Oh yeah. Oh, don't get it twisted. I set my alarm to the boo birds. I wake up. I
That's gonna be
wake
that's
up.
gonna be a that's gonna be a cool story to tell your kids one day. Obviously, we were just talking about, you have babies and everything like that. That's gonna be a cool story that when they grow up, you could tell them some dad lore, about that story and everything.
Oh yeah, no, trust me, man. I still got the pen in my hand as far as writing things down, as far as my history and my book goes, and the things that I'm doing. So I'm praying. They got Unstoppable out, and they got a couple other movies out. I'm get with the right people and get that Bad Man movie out, get that Bubba
That's
Jenkins show
Yes,
awesome.
out.
sir.
Congratulations, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
no, we're working in every way, in every facet to try to make these things happen for not only my fans but for my background. I'm not one of those guys that got out of college and was like, man, I wish I would have did this in high school. I did everything in the sport that I ever wanted to do, and as I continued to grasp into other things and other sports, I captured those goals as well. And I'm in a place where I'm now getting paid to commentate next to Kurt Angle, Chael Sonnen, and my seat is as a validated combatant is valid, and I'm pretty happy at where my career went and where I still sit now. We still got some options to do different things in the fight gang, but this commentating money is really got your boy changing things up around
Yeah,
here. So man,
I
it's
actually
just
was gonna ask you about that, man. I've actually seen you commentate on TCL. What has that been like for you, man? Because you seem like such a natural to it. So like, how has that been, man? It seems like you're pursuing a dream out there.
Yeah, man, it has been amazing. I loved being with TCL. I'm now with Real American Freestyle. They made an announcement this morning today about it. So, but being with TCL was a great place to get my feet wet. And like you said, I am a natural. I've had a way with words. They weren't the first company that I commentated for, but it was something that really got me notified and really got me used to being on the mic, being having ad libs and going live, and 3, 2, 1, Jenkins, you're on, and I'm just like and just being ready to have something to say. I have always had a way with words, and now it's just time to put the validity of who I was on the mat and be able to speak about it. I love doing seminars and webinars because I could definitely teach the children and things like
Yeah.
that. But I'm really in a seat of my own when I can sit there, analyze at what I'm seeing, and give the people in the audience the perspective that they don't usually see or get or draw from.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to like illustrious careers and being around so many of these people, right? The Chael Sonnens, the Kurt Angles. Back years ago when you were on The Ultimate Fighter, you had some involvement with John Jones, obviously working alongside him, being the greatest of all time. What was that like for you? I guess how did that change, I guess, your perspective? But what was that like interacting with John Jones and being so close with him?
Man, it was amazing. It was a life changer. If you go to a basketball camp, you're hoping Michael Jordan or LeBron James shows up,
Yeah.
and you don't want to learn from them. You just want to watch them or look at them and get a picture. And hopefully, maybe they have a conversation with you, or hopefully, maybe you get to learn from them. What I got from John Jones being basically his driver for 7 weeks here in Vegas, and the wrestling coach on the Ultimate Fighter show, planning and plotting and talking with him, going out to clubs and seeing how he lived his life, and of course, there's a lot of opinions about him, but a lot of people know that he had the Bieber effect. He was rich and young at a
Absolutely.
very heightened part of society where, Twitter and everybody and Instagram had an opinion, and, he had a lot of money, and, he didn't have a lot of structure and discipline and maturity, and I got to see that. I'm a couple of months older than John Jones, and to know that he was a fan of me, through his father and his brothers had watched me wrestle and things like that, to talk and sit down and burn one and just have a good conversation about wrestling and life and being, brothers in this type of community, which is, a small knit kind of blue collar community. It was an amazing thing to not only grasp what it takes to be a champion, the mindset of the mentality, why a lion is the king of the jungle instead of an elephant, or something different than something, or a tiger, right? The lion, just being around him. He's a biblical man, hearing scriptures, hearing stories, having some stories of my own, just awesome time. It was a life-changing event. However, I was in Rafa dos Anjos, RDA's I was his wrestling coach for a lot of his big fights. We went to Singapore, and it was much like that. Being with John Jones, not in camp, was getting to see a champion with his hair down and how he prepares to walk amongst everyday society as that champion. So it was a little different. And then being with RDA in camp, and preparing for war, he's a champion. It's a different perspective. But me being the intelligent man that I am, and seeing combat from the wrestling world to the jiu-jitsu world to MMA, I was very, very present in the moments that I was in, and I could definitely understand who John Jones was versus everybody else in the game.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and it's like you said, it's a vast difference. He is my GOAT. I don't think
Same.
he'll ever
Same
be
here. Yeah.
surpassed for that. And I'm glad he came. He's the shortest retirement ever, because he needs to definitely be on that
I
United
agree,
States.
man. I'm not one of those people that, pays attention to the outside things outside of the octagon, man. I look at, what you bring to the table. I mean, I've been watching him since before he was champion in the UFC.
Yeah.
Seeing what he's been able to accomplish, like you said, at such a young age is remarkable, man. I think he's the greatest fighter ever, in my opinion. I'm excited to see, what he brings next. I hope he fights Tom, man. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I think everyone
Yeah,
wants to see
that's
that.
got to be what it's got to be.
Absolutely.
But I think they needed he needed something more than just Tom. Everybody
That
saying
hunger.
Tom's going to retire him without fighting him, and all these other things that he said. And I think he needs that one to just go off on. It's like that Peyton Manning championship
Yeah.
that he had with the Broncos. It's like, man, we don't see you do it all, did it everything. You're literally the GOAT. And it's not that he needs a belt or a championship. It's just that Aspinall is the biggest looking threat to the throne that we have
Yeah.
ever seen, other than my personal opinion, Francis Ngannou.
I agree.
No,
I agree.
it's true, and like people said the same thing about Cyril Gane. Remember when he first came back and he first announced he was fighting Cyril
I
Gane?
didn't believe that. I didn't believe that because I'm not because I'm a wrestler. So
Yeah, well,
Still Gone
exactly, and that's what
I never believed in him. I figured I say give me a wrestler, and I got four guys
exactly.
that can beat Still Gone.
Wrestling's the foundation. We know that.
No,
Right.
it's true. So many people like counted him out too. He came in, so I think he opened up the card as a betting underdog, John Jones, and just blew through him. But like you said, I mean, it has to happen eventually, and greatest of all time for sure.
Yeah.
But going back, I guess, into your faith and everything like that, you and Jones both very faithful, as am I, as is he right here. But I'd say, what kind of role did that play in your career, in your life, and everything like that? I mean, I guess elevating that and speaking a little bit on that.
Yeah, it's the reason why I know to endure. It's the race is not given to the swift. It really is an understanding of being resilient. All the things. Let's take it off of John Jones for a second. All the things that any combatant has been through in life to continue to get to the mat, to continue to get to the cage, continue to in my case, be on these stages of promotion. We want you to say this. We want you to say that. We want you to do this. We want you to do that. And of course, some of it was on of my own fruition, but also some of it was on, the promotion of the company wanting you to, call people out or to have the bravado. And, sometimes when you talk a big game or, you say these certain things and you go out there and fall on your face, or you go out there and not perform the way you want, it's hard to not only get back on that horse, but it's hard to look back at oneself and be like, man, how is that, glorifying the Lord? Or how is that, anything that, we talk about? You start feeling like Gideon, like, Lord, where are all these promises, right? But at the end of the day, to understand how to get back up, to understand how to not only walk in the Job like mindset of life, but to continue to press forward, to continue, though he slay me, yet and still will I worship thee. Really be in that warrior mindset. We all know he gives his toughest battles to those type of warriors, but to live that as a combatant is walking one in one, and having that relationship, having that understanding of biblical differences, is having a spirituality. I love all the people, all the followers of Christ, but I believe there's two different understandings. And there's, I'm a Christian. I follow Christ. I don't have these rules and regulations, and I have a real relationship. So I call myself a Christian. And there's some Christians out there that they follow Christ. They follow a watered down version of it. And I just really imply folks to not only read for themselves, test the spirits, but to also gather that relationship with Christ himself. Because I feel like in America, this in today, we've lost really real understanding of who Jesus is, who Yahshua was. Yahshua Hamashiach was someone who can really change the perspective of the landscape if you really try him and trust him, like a lot of everyday warriors do. You can't tell me the Ray Lewises and the John Joneses and the small Bubba Jenkinses of the world aren't onto something when we have an understanding of what we've been through in life when it comes to loss and when it comes to winning and glorifying the Lord. It's a walk that when you're on your deathbed, when you're on your final day, when you do deal with loss, you can finally say, you know what, I've raced a good race, and I've been a good and faithful servant.
It's a great way of putting it.
I think that's the great thing about the MMA community too, is like, as we saw on 317, we were actually both there in Vegas. You saw almost every single fighter thank Christ. And what's amazing about that is you don't see that in any other organization, whether it's the NFL, NBA. They actually get a lot of scrutiny when they bring up, things of that nature. Like Tim Tebow today would never have lasted, in college or the NFL, doing his kneeling and things like that. And it's just crazy when you go to see, MMA, especially the UFC, because Dana just allows, everyone to have an open mind and speak freely. And it's a beautiful thing, man. I love seeing it. I think it's great, seeing these fighters have such faith. And it was an amazing thing to see on 317. And we were talking about it, while we were there, that every single fighter had mentioned it. And I said to him, I was like, dude, this is the first time I think I've really listened to every single fighter mention God after, a win or whether they lost, And yeah, I just thought that was a pretty, amazing thing. And then of course,
I think there's a big tide in turning in where we at in society, as far as um, the things we stand for, the things we believe in. Now you can talk about politics. Now it's, more understanding to have a certain belief of,
yeah.
the Muslims are growing at vast numbers, and, new ageism, society, and has this belief of, what is it, the universe, and there's newer things now. And I'm just grateful that with the world trying to show its awokeness, that there's still that true gold line of Jesus at the heart of it all, that really differentiates itself between the way people talk and the way people actually live. I really would like people to dissect the ones that really speak on that, really understanding how they live, because that's where you're going to see the difference between relationship and religion.
Amen. Amen, brother. I like that, man. Honestly, I don't think I can say it any better.
Yeah,
I
that's what I'm just sitting here listening, man. You just put it amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah,
No,
like I
brother,
said,
absolutely.
I get paid for this shit.
No,
I gotta labor
absolutely,
words, but
man. I mean,
it,
it's always good. I feel like it's always important too to have these conversations because so many people have such strong beliefs, and there's so many different beliefs in the world. But I feel like being able to, have conversations like these and being able to upload them publicly and everything, it's really important. Um, but yeah, man, you said that amazing. We're getting back a little bit to your career and everything like that. If you don't mind shifting gears, what would you say was your favorite either match or fight or moment throughout your whole career? Because obviously you've been all over the place, all over the world, and everything like that. There's got to be one moment that stands out.
probably when I became the first world. So I went to Bahrain and I won the world championships for Brave out there. It's a great big organization now. It wasn't as big then, but um, it was a validation for me because it wasn't just America's championship. It wasn't just the NCAA's, which is to me a world championship because the other countries ain't wrestling folk style like we are.
Yeah.
That's our sport. But it isn't. It wasn't just. It was me going to Abu Dhabi, which is a Muslim ground, not only winning the world title against someone who I was an underdog to and who was already a champion, um, but being able to not only cry tears of joy, but to witness to that audience, which I was told it could be a death threat. It could be, be careful of doing things. Be careful of, you wear your belief on your shoulder. Be careful of doing that here in this land because, some of the people are radical believers of what they believe, and they can enact Sharia law or whatever it is on the spot death sentence or whatever. They were basically saying, be careful with your faith. And after I won, of course I was, delicate. I was very sensitive to not only the place I was in, but the people that I was, the people that were paying me, the people that I was
Yeah.
entertaining. That I was not only, Caleb, going to see the promised land, trying to bring back these big ass grapes and let everybody know it's good. We good. Everything will be great over there. It was me trying to stay amongst that atmosphere while also being the believer that I was. And when I finally got the mic and the Lord did allow his spirit to go through me and speak the things that were said, I was grateful that, I was not only known amongst men as a world champion, but I'm for sure known amongst the angels in heaven because of that witnessing in that land at that time. And I'm so grateful that I was spiritually sound enough in such a carnal glorifying moment to actually have the eyesight and the presence to capture those crowns for heaven in that time. And I'm just grateful that, that was not only something that I can remember and, it's my Instagram picture. I'm on my knees and I got the belt around me and I'm praying and I'm not only praying, but I'm witnessing. And that is something, it was my first world championship that validated me, something I'll never forget, something that I can never remake because of the height and time and sensitivity and the glory that I was feeling and the tears that were of joy, yet so pure in that moment. You cannot redo it.
So I gotta say one of my favorite of you is Grapple at the Garden.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
watched numerous videos of you beating Frank. I gotta ask, man, about that pinstripe singlet Was that just a shout out to New York, or was that just, are you a Yankees fan? That was,
You know,
I think I asked the question.
my girl now is a New York girl. My stepdad at the time, who's still pops now, he was a New Yorker. But of course, I'm going Madison Square Garden. It's pinstripe. I'm going Yankees singlet with the
Let's
pinstripe
go. Let's
with the
go.
Jenkins on the back and everything. Yeah, that was. I'm always paying homage. Like, listen, I'm very present. When I went to Atlanta for one of my Atlanta fights, I wore a Dominique jersey, a Dominique Wilkins jersey. I'm
Okay.
very understanding. I went to San Antonio, wore a cowboy hat and a belt buckle. I try to entertain the people that are of town. That's why I don't mind the Boo Birds, because I'm really a genuine guy, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't like me, there's a problem with you, because I
Yeah,
don't really try. I
yeah.
don't really try I'm trying. Of course, there's that line of be have that bravado, entertain, right? That's why I get to sit in the seats that I sit now, because I was okay and I was an entertainer. Yes, I was a legitimate athlete, but I also mixed a little bit of entertainment with it. I allowed the Lord's anointing on my life and the talents that He gave me. I didn't just bury them and come back to them later. I'm actually putting those talents out there, and I'm going to double them up in everything that I do, not only my athleticism or my way of mind, but the way that I speak and the pattern in which my cadences resonate to people. I'm trying to use all the talents that He's given me, so when He comes back, He'll be like, yo, what'd you do with my talents? No, no, look here. Look, I got that. I got a couple of things. And so that's where I stand, and that's where I am with it.
I think it's awesome, man, that almost everything that we've gone over today. I mean, obviously we've already had a few questions, but everything ties back into the Lord, right? And I think it's really cool though, because so many people you see bring him up and everything, and they kind of, like you said, don't act on his beliefs. They say, "Oh, thank God," and then they walk away. But I feel like really acting through it and really acting on his calling and everything like that is really important, because so many people just look past that.
Yeah,
It's
I
interesting.
think out of the abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks, right? A lot of times, some people who are in that moment and they want to use God as a genie for their next moment, they remember to give God His due, but only for their next heightened moment. When you speak from the abundance of who you are, and the scriptures run off your tongue, the ideals of who God is reverberate from your heart, and you just naturally flow into it. That's I don't try these things. I don't force the moment of God, or I don't force my witnessing on people. I'm in the hood with hey, pass that blunt. I'm definitely on that edgier side of gathering the hearts of harder warrior type folks, right? So when it comes to the rules, when it comes to the when it comes to my anointing and my exact given assignment from the Lord, I'm specific with it. I'm 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 very detailed oriented with it, and I'm very open minded to the understanding that there's a lot of ways to understanding who Christ is to you. A lot of people don't understand who Christ is to them. They know Christ from their parents, they know God from social media, they know God from all these other things, but they don't know who He is to them. And once they know whose they are, they can finally walk into who they are with the confidence. And that's where you'll see me being who I am confidently, not forcing anything. I just, from the abundance, it speaks.
So I gotta ask, Bubba, changing gears a little bit, bringing up the PFL. Who do you have in the main event and the co-main event?
I haven't seen. I'm not gonna lie. You would think that I have a problem. I don't know who's fighting.
So we got Johnny Evans
I
and
don't feel like I don't feel like they did me right. So when I dust my feet and I keep it moving. Whenever I feel like an organization or who I still would love to be fighting for anybody and everybody. You get what I'm saying? I'm no longer with TCL. Still would love to be with them. Um, the thing about my calling is when you are unapologetically you and a believer and an anointed like I am, like the Lord has shown and has given me my discipleship, right? the world and society will test you and make sure that they will have a stamp on you. They will have an ability to track. And me having the Lord be my source and not a resource, I cut ties a lot, and that's where I stand with not only the PFL but other companies. So I
That's
don't know
understandable. So I want okay. So add into that then. Do
who's
you
fighting.
is
What about UFC? What about UFC? You got Max or Dustin this weekend?
I love me some Max, love Bless, but Dustin's my guy. Dustin's my dude, and
Yeah.
he's walking out with Little Wayne.
I know, man.
Oh
That's
my
big.
God, that is you. Chef's kiss to that
It
one.
doesn't get any better than that, man. To
And
me, talking
and
about
it's for
goats
the
or anything.
BMF, and it's for the last fight. Like this is the swan song. You got the perfect dance partner. He might even, give you a little bit just to give you what you're supposed. Like, the that moment for the UFC, for fight fans, for real men. That's a good thing. I think
Absolutely,
everybody
man.
does that.
And we were talking about goats. Wayne's the goat to me, So walking out with Dustin, man, that's like you said, chef's kiss.
Yeah, Wayne is for sure the go. Ain't
Definitely.
close. It ain't close. Damn it.
I agree, man. I
Wake
agree.
up. It ain't close.
So let me ask you. So is is Bubba Jenkins the fighter done, or would you still love to compete?
I'm still gonna compete. I'm still gonna compete. Bubba Jenkins, the fighter, is not done. I got some good things going, and the thing about where I am is I have the ability to talk to these organizations while also saying, after I get done, I can get in the booth, or before I get started, I get in the booth, introduce myself, and then get going with you guys. So like, I'm getting at where I'm at in my career. I'm getting the perfect thing for me because I don't have to do it. I'm not in a place where I got to go back and get through these camps and
Yeah.
drum up the sponsorship. The Lord has made ways to where I can really go commentate and really be a voice in these other areas for a lot of different companies. And I'm thinking I'm putting my application in for judging. They ain't got many young
Man,
judges
please
out there.
do.
Yeah,
Please
we got
do.
some
The
controversial
judging is
judges.
terrible out there.
Please, please.
Please do, man, because that Wonder Boy fight. I don't know how you had it, but to me personally, I had Wonder Boy winning, but it
Yeah.
just seems that happens more often than not anymore too. I feel like the judging's been a little. I don't know what some of these guys are watching, to be honest with you.
When you
But I've been to so many fight events from, like you said, TCL and different other things, right? And to sit on the side and see who's judging, I'm not throwing shade and giving strays out, but to see who's judging, you're like, bro, I don't know if he's awake or alive or if he can see. I'm looking at these judges, and I'm not saying all of them, and I'm not gonna point no fingers, but they are struggling. I'm ringside because I'm an announcer. I'm a ringside analysis, and I'm looking at what the judges are. I'm looking at what judge. I'll watch a big punch or something like that, then I'll immediately look at the judge and I'll see them not see what I just saw. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
you know what? Being sidelined has made me. You know what? I got to get into judging. That's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm at with it because I've seen so much of it just be terrible, and then me write down who I thought won and be a really good judge of who fighting. Obviously I like aggression, and I like optics. If you're not a person who can walk off, if I can't bring my little cousin in who's a girl and my aunt in and have them tell me who whooped someone's ass, who won that fight, if they can't tell, I usually go off a person who doesn't have an understanding, right?
Right.
Optics tell you everything, and then I obviously know the nuances, so I have a real good understanding of who possibly won the round or the fight. And when I come up missing or wrong or what, and it wasn't a split or it wasn't close and it's way the other way, that's when I really have a art with these judges and a real inspiration to try to change some things, because I think the cataracts is setting in, the age, they got to travel. Don't get it wrong. These men are, 60, 70, and
Yeah.
they've got the travel schedule like these younger guys. So they get there and they be on the sideline watching 10 rounds, and you see them start to nod off.
That's awful.
That happens.
That's
homie missed round 4 through 7.
awful.
I feel like so many commissions now are changing. Like, I feel like every few years, every commission has to change their rules because the judges, there's always something off, right? And like recently, I think it was Nevada State Athletic Commission. They recently changed how they're judging. And it gets to a point where like you need someone with fight IQ that understands what they're looking at, like you, where you look at something and you say, okay, it was decisive that it was this. I feel like they keep changing the rules to almost give these judges an out and excuse their not so great judging. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. There definitely needs to be more public understanding about it. And I would like, for the judges to, we got so much technology. Have the judges on the side of the ring, and like the scores go up, have the judge name and who they got up there. And at the end, like we interview everybody, get an interview from these motherfuckers and get an understanding of what they feel, how they feel, and what they saw.
Well, I also feel like one of the requirements. Now I could be wrong here, but I feel like one of the requirements to be a judge or a ref is to have some experience in the background itself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know if all these guys do or they don't, but based off how they score, I would assume they don't. That's just what I see a lot of the times. I won't name any judge specifically.
Right, but some of these guys are, like you said, some of these guys are OGs though. Some of them been sparring with Chuck LaMotta, and
Yeah.
they was in these camps of these well known guys that are dead now. That they just happened to go judging or saw another route when they were coming up in the sport. So it's not. There is of course those guys that don't have any background, but then there's those guys who have just been there for ages. They've
But
been in
don't
the
you
camp.
think?
They took them some Rock'em Sock'em Robots, and they just can't see it the same.
But I mean, don't you think because the game has evolved so much? Times have changed a lot, throughout history and the way judging is. And I feel like, you were saying these judges have been around for so long and they've been maybe watching the game for so long, but the game has changed from watching Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock and the way they used to wrestle and fight and everything. You can't judge it the same way today. You know what I'm saying? Like, back then, I was just watching a fight the other day off UFC Fight Pass, and it was Tito and Frank Shamrock, and it was when he was going for, I think at that time it was the middleweight title.
Legendary
Yeah,
fight.
yeah.
Good times during those times.
Right, right. And it was different because like Tito the whole time had like, he was pressing forward. He had the cage control. And like the whole time you were hearing the judges saying he's losing this fight and blah, blah, blah. And like today, that's totally different. If a guy's pressing forward, he's got the control the whole time, he's winning. Especially
Yeah.
if he's getting these takedowns, he's holding you down, the ground and pound. Like, so it's crazy to see how much it's changed. And I'm just curious if like these guys are still judging the same way throughout the years. That's just kind of what it seems like to me.
And I've also felt that there, after the excitement of the striker a little bit more, a lot of these wrestlers are losing fights that I believe they are winning because they're not sitting up there rock'em sock'em roboting,
Yeah.
and because their talent is to wrestle and control, and it's not putting fans in the stands in the way that they believe it should. So a lot of these guys are swayed by the audience or by the drunk guy yelling whatever he's yelling, or people wanting that reel, that Instagram satisfaction, that 15 seconds of, oh yeah, give it to me, and not 3 rounds of what a wrestler will do to dynamically pick you apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I know we've had like an hour of your time and everything. We don't want to take up your whole day, man. We appreciate you even coming here and even coming back on with us. I do have one major question for you, man.
What's
Like
up?
I said, I've been a fan for a long time, man, throughout college, throughout your PFL career, everything else.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Real talk.
One
Appreciate it.
thing, man, I saw that's stood out for me. It's actually the reason I wore this hat today. I saw you post on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers page, man, and I messaged you. I was like, "What?" I was like, "You're a Bucks fan." You said your whole life, bro. You got to explain that to me because I got a whole Buccaneers sleeve, bro. Like when we talk
Yeah.
die hard, that's
I'm a
what I
nucky if
mean.
you Bucks fan. I'm mad that and I'm just, man, listen, you talking about I'm mad. What are you talking about?
Let's go.
Man, like I was about to say, I'm mad I don't got no, I'm in my room. I don't got no paraphernalia nowhere, but I just proved that I do. Man, I've been a Bucks fan. So first of all, Rondé Barber, Tiki Barber, they're Virginia boys. So,
Yep.
being a Barber guy, I'm a Virginia guy. So that was where I was. When I first understood what football was, I was a young wrestling, let's get it kind of guy. And at that time, 0-14, the Creamsicle Buccaneers were them. So when I kind of understood what football was, I'm like, who's the worst team? I want to go for that team. Not only is that the worst team, there's nothing that can. You got to get up from there. Like
Yeah,
that was
that's right.
who I was as like a 9-year-old. Like, who's the worst? Well, I want to do that. Who's the biggest in the room? Like that was who I was.
Yeah.
So Rodney Barber played for them. I like the white running back in Allstott. It was just
Yep.
like something to me being a black kid in Virginia, being a black wrestler with all the white kids around me, gave me some kind of attachment to the white running back. I don't know how you see it. That's just how I saw it. Listen, and then the fact that Warwick Dunn, I was the smallest guy on the field, cracking people as a running back, as a linebacker. I was the smallest. My son's still the smallest kid on the field right now, cracking people and running over people. And when I saw Warwick Dunn, I saw he's 5'7", 5'8", being the hardest heart, the running back on the field. I'm like, listen, Tampa Bay, that's my team. I
Yeah,
got
see,
sitting
you're
up
a
here.
real fan, man. You've
I'm a
watched
real
them
fan.
from the baddest of times to, man, let me tell you, these last 6, 7
Yeah.
years, man, they've been great.
Look, we were like, hey, we've been looking good out there. Hey,
Yeah,
go get him,
man.
Baker. Go get him, Baker.
Hey,
Listen,
I'm telling
I
you,
wasn't
man.
I wasn't sold on who Mayfield was. I know the heart. He got a heart of a lion. He liked that, and he's a gunslinger. He a newer version of the Brett Favre. I like that. I don't mind it. We got the right team for him. We got the right
Oh, yeah.
receivers for him. We got the right people. First when he first started, I won't liking it, and then you know what? Okay, we got something.
Man, Baker's got the moxie, man. He is Tampa. Like he's got the
Yeah,
swag,
yeah,
he brings it, man. And like
yeah. If
to
it's something I know, it's a little moxie. Hey, he got that it.
he
If
does,
it's
man.
something I
And
know to see, he got it.
to go from Tom Brady, who is the GOAT of
Yeah,
GOATs,
yeah.
a
It's
lot
hard
of
to it's
people
hard
would
to
say.
follow that.
Yeah, that's some big footsteps, and man, he's blown the expectations away, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I was watching watching on sports the other day. They were talking about top 10 wide receivers, and they didn't have Evans in there, and they had Puka Nacua, the guy from the
Yeah, Puka
Rams.
Nacua from the
Yeah.
Rams. Yeah.
And they were like, there was an argument between who they'd rather have between Puka and Evans, and I almost lost my mind. I was just like, who is this guy talking on TV? They said, I was thinking about calling producers of who talking about it because it was just, I'm a Tampa Bay fan, and obviously I'm a long, hard Evans fan. To me, that dude has done what he needed to do to be legendary
The
for any wide
disrespect is
receiver career.
crazy,
The
man. He
disrespect
So
is
slept
wild.
on.
But
he is honestly one not only such a great player, man, like he does so much for the community out here.
yeah. And
Um,
and he's a quiet, generally quiet guy as far as on the field, and like
Especially for
he
a wide receiver.
as
Wide
a wide
receiver is the
receiver,
diva
right?
position,
Right. And I think that's why they don't say much. But man, I enjoyed this interview with you guys. So
Man,
like
thank
minded.
you.
Next time you guys got something going on, let me know. Next time I got something going on and you guys want to promote it or promote what you got,
Of
let's
course.
connect. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate that you guys are Christ minded and brothers in Christ, man. That's big. And Nuck, if you Buck fans, that's massive, man. Next time I come on, I'm rocking a jersey just so we know it's
I was
real.
gonna say, man, if you're ever in Tampa, bro, I'll give you my number, man. Seriously, give me a call.
Yes,
Yes,
indeed.
sir.
All right, boss. I definitely for sure. Anytime I'm in Florida, Tampa area, I'm definitely gonna hit you up. Now I know I got some brothers down there.
Hey,
Yes,
sounds
sir.
good, bro. But thanks again, man, for